In a court ruling U.S. versus Fishbein, a man subjected to potential incineration while wearing another man's suit is entitled to $10,000 worth of airline tickets. It's an obscure ruling, but a very important one to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. Excuse me, can I borrow your towel? My car just hit a water buffalo.
A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling,
New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a Hall of Fame and sought-after speaker at company leadership and sales conferences on topics at the core of the Go-Giver books that he delivers. He's a former television personality and top-producing salesperson. He has shared the platform with some of today's top business leaders, broadcast personalities, coaches, athletes, and political leaders as well, including a former U.S. president. He's an amazing author, having sold millions of copies, most notably his Go-Giver books, and is the host of the Go-Giver podcast. The American Management Association named him one of the 30 most influential leaders, and he is one of Inc.'s 100 great leadership speakers. He's an advocate, supporter, and defender of the free enterprise system and believes that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people one serves. Thrive Loud listeners, I had the honor of being there when he was inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame, the Bob Burg. Bob, how are you today?
Lou, what a great introduction. Thank you, and great to be with you.
I am excited to be here. I've heard you speak, as I mentioned in the opening here. I got to see you honored last summer. You've been at this for quite some time. You've got one of the more impactful messages, which I always love the whole conversation difference between a go-giver and a go-getter. And I think that's actually where I wanted to start. Even though so many people know you, Bob, not everybody does. So if you could share with the Thrive Loud listeners a little bit about how that became the direction of your platform that you've written a lot about, now you speak about, and obviously even have podcasts about.
Well, I think I grew up living that only because I had great parents who embodied that very characteristic in everything they did. You know, we wouldn't have called it something like Go-Giver or anything, but that's what they did. They were always adding value, bringing value to the lives of everyone they touched. So I was very fortunate that way. I began as a broadcaster. That was my beginning, but I wasn't very good at that, and I quickly graduated into sales. And
what were you not so? Hold on. Why do you believe that you were not very good at it?
I could read the news. That was not an issue, but I wanted to be a sportscaster, and I began in radio, and that was fine. But I got a job with a very small ABC affiliate in the Midwestern U.S. as a newscaster. Because it was, a break into TV. And I thought from there I could get back into sports. But I was so lousy at the news because I really didn't know anything about it. I was 24 years old at the time, didn't know the news at that time, didn't care about the news. And I think I was probably too positive for the medium by my nature. I mean, my idea of a good opening would have been to say something like, "Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Burg, and the news tonight, everything's great."
I like
go to bed,
right.
Let you know if something comes up. So,
right.
It just, and it wasn't something I particularly enjoyed after a while. And so I got into sales, but I wasn't particularly good at that because I didn't know anything about sales. I had no formal training, and the training at the company where I was first working, it was negligible at best. So for the first few months, I really floundered. Fortunately, I went into a bookstore and saw a couple of books on sales, which surprised me. I didn't even know that was a thing. And this is 40 years ago, so it wasn't as big a thing as it is now, I don't think, in terms of seeing actual books in there. But I picked up a couple of books by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, and I began just immersing myself in that. And in a very short period of time, my sales went through the roof. And it was really nothing more than having a methodology, having a system, learning from people who were great at doing it, great at teaching it. To this day, I would personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. And the key being predictability. And, I think I began a sales career really doing that.
What were you selling when you first started selling?
Advertising for radio and television. And then I moved on to a very high-end consumer product and enjoyed it, very much. I mean, it was a great experience, and worked my way up to sales manager of the latter company, and began sharing with others what was working for me and for my team, and kind of morphed eventually into speaking, and really wanted to, it's funny. There was really I guess, what do you call it? Not a breakthrough moment, I guess it would be an epiphany, if you will. Because, and this is really, I think, how the whole thing of the Go-Giver in a formal way kind of started, okay? I had been selling for a couple of years. And again, I learned it and I was doing well with it. But not, I certainly was not anywhere near my potential. I was sort of like Joe in the story, in the original Go-Giver story. And I remember coming back to the office one day after a non-selling appointment. It was not non-selling by design. It was supposed to be selling. But through my through my misapplication, it didn't happen. And there was a guy who was there, an older guy. He was not in the sales department. I think he was an engineer, one of these older guys who, he didn't say much, but whenever he did, it was something profound. And I think he saw the look of disgust on my face and disgust really with myself. And he said, "Burg, can I give you some advice?" And I said, "Yeah, please do." And he said, "If you want to make a lot of money in business," actually, he said, "if you want to make a lot of money in sales," he said, "don't have making money as your target. Your target," he said, "is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward. And that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others."
I like that.
Yeah, and I think that basic principle would really form the premise of the Go-Giver.
I was going to ask this question because it is interesting. Great salespeople have the ability to read a room really well and know what the needs are. Can you talk a little bit about reading your customers, but also what you have often talked about, that you're not necessarily selling something to someone, you might be helping them with someone. Can you share that message with our listeners?
Okay, so there are a couple of different things there. First, in terms of reading others, to me, the best way of reading someone is to not assume you know what they're thinking, but to ask questions and then listen. Right. And listen in a way that you do it without assumption. Not always as easy as that seems. We often talk about putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, which sounds easy to do until you realize that most of us have different size feet. Yeah. We literally can't step into their shoes. We figuratively can't step into their mind because we all come from our own unique belief system, our way of seeing the world. In a sense, we're all run by a mechanism that's an unconscious operating system, if you will, right? Which has been planted into us in a sense by the world around us at a very young age. And so we're not always as proactively thinking and open as we believe we are. And we tend to think that others see the world basically the way we do, when that's really not true at all. They see the world the way they do. So if you really want to step into another person's shoes, you need to ask questions and listen. And listen not just with your ears. That's the surface listening most of us do. That's listening while we're waiting our turn to speak. It's listening It's being willing to give them their 2 cents so long as we can then get in our 10 cents. Right. But rather, it's listening with our eyes. It's listening with our posture. It's listening with, as we like to say, with the back of your neck. In other words, putting your entire being into this listening. And what happens is 2 wonderful things. One, you actually do learn about this person. You learn about what they want, what they need from their viewpoint. And you create a sense of trust because people feel heard. They feel listened to. Let me, if I may, take what you said about the not selling, but serving. And, what I would say to that is, it's always a matter of definitions and premises. I see selling as the ultimate in serving. So, I'm never one to say, well, I don't sell, I serve. I would say I sell because I serve. And if you look at the old English root of the word sell, it was selan, which literally meant to give. And so when you're selling, you're literally giving. Now, someone would say, well, wait a second, isn't that just semantics? And I don't think so, Lou, and I'll tell you why. Because let's say you have a prospective customer or client in front of you, okay, and you're doing your presentation. You are in the process of selling. When you're selling, what exactly are you giving? I suggest you're giving them time, attention, counsel, education, empathy, and most of all, you're giving them value.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, this has always been the biggest thing. I've substituted the word sales and marketing and leadership with connecting. As for me, it's about how you establish that connection and that trust. And then obviously everything then comes thereafter. But those values that you just hit upon, and specifically value in itself, is why we trust and want to connect with people, because we see the value they give. Bob, I want to ask this question because I asked this question very recently to John C. Maxwell, who was on the show a couple months ago. And I asked him whether writing his books, delivering keynote messages, or formulating the ideas that he puts into the books, which eventually become his keynote messages. Of those 3, what did he like most? I want to hear what Bob Burg likes doing most: coming up with the message, putting together the books, writing the books, or speaking.
Well, I can totally eliminate writing the books. Okay. I don't like writing. I like having written. Okay. So I like the book to be done. Once that book is through, I'm very happy because I really don't enjoy the writing process. Now, when I co-author a book, such as with John David Mann, the Go-Giver series, it's a joy because John is the lead writer. Okay. He's a magnificent storyteller. I'm more of a how-to person. When I write how-to books, it is to me, a torturous process. So I can definitely, I don't know what John said, but I can tell you that. That's what I said. I do like formulating the ideas a lot, because I'm always thinking. I think I live inside my head and I live inside of books. I mean, I just enjoy that. And I love exchanging ideas with others. So to me, the thinking and making sure the premises are correct and that the thinking is being done properly, those are all, I'll go levels into an idea, to really, plumb the, what it really is about. Speaking, I love. I do enjoy it, but I don't like to travel. So whereas I used to travel a lot just because that's what I did, you had to do it. Now as I get older, I just turned 61 and I'm just not as willing to do that. So I take no more than 20 outside the state engagements per year now. If they were in Florida, if they were in my backyard at the local, hotel, okay, I would do 250 a year because I just, I love talking about it and discussing with the audience and everything. But no, I just so don't like to travel that I limit my engagements now.
Hey there! If you're enjoying how Lou is connecting with this guest in this interview, then just imagine how impactful he can be in person. As an international speaker and consultant, Lou Diamond is all about getting organizations to thrive through the power of connecting. To learn more about how you can hire Lou to speak at your company, your conference, or your next event, head on over to loudiamond.net and click the Book Lou button to learn more. He'll truly get everyone to thrive loud. All right, let's get back to the show.
I wanted to ask this question about you being on stage, Bob, because this is actually something that I experienced recently, and I had a whole conversation with a bunch of other speakers. I wanted your 2 cents on it. There are, depending on the audience and the message that you give, each time a certain message you may deliver might resonate with the audience, and you actually feel that aha moment when you give it. It could be through laughter or nodding of heads, or some message you deliver hits home. With all the presentations you've done, has there been one message that when you deliver and you communicate it, that it hits home more often than any of the others?
Oh, that is a great question. Wow. I'd have to say that if anything, it would be that when you can move from what we call an I focus or a me focus to an other focus, looking for ways to bring value to others, that people are going to want to be a part of your life. They're going to want to do business with you. They're going to want to refer you to others. But what I often say, because I think this is so important, that there's nothing la or magical or mystical about it, which I think sometimes people think, that's going to be. Well, just give value to people and karma is going to take care of everything. And that's not what we're saying at all. It's understanding human nature, that, nobody is going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. They're not going to buy from you because you need the money, and they're not going to buy from you or do business with you because you're a really nice guy. They're going to buy from you. They're going to do business with you. They're going to be a part of your life because they believe that that they are better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's okay. That's a good thing. In a free market-based economy, free market simply meaning no one is forced to do business with anyone else. What that does is it ensures that the salesperson, the entrepreneur, the business person puts their focus on the right place, and that's the other person.
It's really interesting because that obviously must be the answer that connects it, because I'm nodding my head up and down as you're saying this. I'm like, he's got it. He's nailing it. So that must be the moment.
Thank you.
So Bob, with this great career, and obviously I like the fact that you've managed to localize your speaking business. Good luck to the 250 times in the Jupiter, Florida area.
Oh no, it never happens.
I know.
That was an if. If that one. No.
I'm just kidding. But with all of that, we're just having fun.
I wish.
With all of that, we all have off days. Days that we're not necessarily on all cylinders and things aren't firing as well as we'd like. When you are having trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to help get yourself back on the thriving track?
Well, I think it is acknowledging first that there's something going on. And I think if we don't do that, if we just try to kind of bury our heads in the sand or just deny it, I don't think we're any better off. So, we first have to allow ourselves to kind of feel the pain of knowing that it's not there as we'd like it to be. And, I think when it comes to speaking, when it comes to an audience, it's really getting back to, and I think I mentioned this during the acceptance speech at NSA that you were referring to, that the times in my career that I kind of let it become about me, that's when those kind of things happened. So I had to immediately go back and say, wait a second, it isn't about me. If my focus is on myself, and even on the talk I'm giving, I'm not going to connect with this audience. It's got to be about the audience. It's got to be about making their lives better.
Right.
And I think that's a very simple shift, but it's not always easy to do because it's certainly incongruent with human nature, which is very self-focused.
So getting out of your own ego is a way that helps you you thrive.
Absolutely.
Oh, I like that. I like that touch. I think we had Cy Wakeman. That's her whole thing. No ego. Get out of your ego. Get out of your own head and do it that way. Let's do the admin part first, because I have some more fun things here. Bob, share with the listeners all the places people can find you, website, stuff like that. We're going to put it all on the show notes, but when you say it, it's always better.
Well, they could go to Burg, and that's spelled B-U-R-G, Burg.com, and pretty much everything's there. And more information about the books and so forth is at The Go-Giver, without the hyphen, thegogiver.com. And from either of those places, they can find me online on the various social media platforms and so forth.
I want to get back to this, look, when people get recognized for an achievement. I just recently, I have a friend who's a baseball sports writer, and he participates every year in helping to determine who gets into the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And and it's pretty cool and all that stuff. It seems great. And we always joke about the fact that, you always hear about these stories about people who are much older that get into the Hall of Fame much later in life, but they hadn't played a game in a greater period of time. Like they didn't get any better while they were sitting on the sidelines. And I recognize you're in at whatever. Wasn't going on an age thing here, Bob. What I'm going at is the sense of pride, I guess, in that community and the club that you're associated with. Can you share with the listeners the sense how you felt for that level of recognition?
Oh, it's truly such a great honor to be, and I know I think they say this at the Academy Awards, to be recognized by your peers, right?
Right?
But it really is. I mean, because that's what this award is. It really, it's because again, I've been around for a long time and probably while my books have gotten more popular over the years, I haven't spoken as much over the years as, again, by design, but as I used to. So I was joking with some people that it was more of a lifetime achievement award than it was for anything that I've done lately. So, but sure, that was just a heck of a thrill.
I think, by the way, that is a fair amount, like you get up there and you're like recognized truly by your peers and what you speak well. And I think we've all find that speaking in front of speakers is actually really challenging for some reason.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yes.
I was really nervous. I mean, I get nervous before every talk. Okay. I do. Once I, walk on stage and not then I'm fine. But I got to tell you, that was nerve-wracking.
From your career in speaking, the best bit of advice that you've received as it relates to your craft of speaking your message, and then follow that up with the best bit of advice that you can give someone else.
Let's see. As far as the presentation part, I got to learn from a guy by the name of Bill Gove. The name is probably recognizable to you. It may not be to most people. We lost Bill probably 20 years ago, but he was one of the co-founders along with Cabot Robert of the National Speakers Association. And Bill was a mentor of mine and pretty much anyone in South Florida. That's where he ended up living. And just what a great man. But one of the things he said, and this made a big difference for me, because I remember asking him kind of early in my speaking career when I felt sometimes like, I was up there really, giving it my best, but, were people really going to take this, what I said and to do something with it and this and that? And he said, Bob, when it comes to life, when it comes to business, when it comes to speaking, he said, you're responsible to people, not for people. Right. You're responsible to them. You're responsible to them to give them the opportunity. You're responsible to them to be prepared. You're responsible to them to know what you're supposed to deliver and to deliver it with excellence. But you're not responsible for their life's decisions and their action or, non-action. And that really put my mind to ease. And I would say, that's one of the pieces of advice I give to young speakers who ask me, and of course I was credited to Bill. But I would say that, that's certainly one of the most profound things I ever heard.
I like that. It's solid and so visual as I hear it. I want to sidetrack this conversation a little bit because here we are on a podcast and you have a podcast show hosting. Talk about what it's like being the host. It's an interesting spot, is it not?
It is. You get to speak to a lot of people who've done some magnificent things and ask them all about it. And that part's fun. I do a lot of prep because, when I interview someone about a book, I go through that book the same way I go through any book that I love, pen in hand and highlighter and yellow sticky notes. And the tough part is, a lot of times there's so much great information that they have. I go through the book and it's like I write down, interview, to ask them about, and you just can't fit everything in. Especially mine's not a long form podcast. The interviews are usually about 20 to 22 minutes, so I can't get everything in that I'd like. But it's really, a privilege to be able to have a lot of these people on my on my show and have these discussions with them.
It's actually funny, and sitting in this seat, to your point about the importance of asking great questions as it relates to the profession of sales and leadership. And I always love the opportunity sitting in this chair because it actually sharpens my own selling skills in doing so. And I, just hearing and listening and going down a certain avenue and trying to navigate that in a fun way, almost a non-pressure sense way, but we're trying to draw the best out of great guests. And I've listened to a couple of your programs, and you do have a great voice. We joke about this. You've been speaking forever, but I can see why broadcasting was in some trait into your world, because you actually do have a good sounding voice to listen to. So kudos to you.
Oh, thanks. The tough part was, I grew up about 25 minutes outside of Boston. So, and for some reason I had a very, very thick Massachusetts accent. I mean, it was really pak the ka, and I had no idea that I had an accent. So it wasn't until I began sportscasting that I was told that my Boston accent was so thick, even for someone doing it in Massachusetts. So I ended up taking a course at a local college just to get rid of it, which I never totally got rid of it. And when I speak fast, it kind of comes out. But that was the worst part. I had a decent voice I was blessed with, but that Boston accent was absolutely the horrors. And so I had to work really hard at losing that.
Hey, Bob, I came from Brooklyn, New York. So what do you think I had to do with it?
Yeah, the difference is I say park and you say park.
Exactly, park or something. So with that, to wrap this and put a bow on it, Bob, what's your all-time favorite movie?
Of the many that I have greatly enjoyed, I would have to say it's Fletch with Chevy Chase.
Wow. Bob, you just went up like 17 notches in my world. Tell me why you love Fletch so much.
There's so many levels. We could do a podcast just on that. I mean, just from the surface level of humor to just some of the things he did that were so brilliant in that film. I think about it, and I can watch that movie and I will just laugh just as hard every time. And that's how it was well written and well performed.
Excuse me, can I borrow your towel? My car just ran into a water buffalo.
Yes, a cheesesteak and a cheesesteak. Yes.
Well, more notably, my favorite is that I had a younger cousin who used to follow me around when I would actually do the movie quotes with my friends when Fletch came out. And he really thought that the car was called an Oldsmobile Buick, right? Oh, that's really great.
Calling Dr. Rosen. Yeah,
well, it was. Bob, you'll be glad to know if you've listened to episodes on Thrive Loud, we always inject movie quotes somewhere either at the beginning or the end, and you just made the production team incredibly happy. Anyway, Bob Burg, truly a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. I know a lot of people got great things out of this, me specifically, but truly an honor to have you on.
Well, you're a fantastic host. I so appreciate you.
You got it, Bob. And to all the Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
What the hell you need ball bearings for? Oh, come on, guys. It's so simple. Maybe you need a refresher course. Hey, it's all ball bearings nowadays.
Does this proposition entail my dressing up as Little Bo Peep? Say, my kidneys feel a lot better in this position. Maybe it's just that I'm not doing any calisthenics. If I did some sit-ups in the morning or bent over like this, I'd probably feel 100% better. Moon River. Whew. Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time? Can I borrow your towel for a sec? My car just hit a water buffalo.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.